I co-founded this product with Richard Barrett, who can't be here tonight because he's travelling for us. I was lucky enough, as Will has said, for Eamon Curtin to put the two of us together and to make a start out of doing something which we're pretty proud of today. First of all, Will, thanks very much for tonight. Thanks for the invite. And previous two speakers, I won't be as long or as in detail definitely as the economics, and I'll be asking you, maybe there might be a spot for some articles on site after. So I suppose what we wanted to do with Pundit Arena was we believe, particularly in sport, there was a strength in the articulate fan and being able to take the knowledge that they actually follow in. You know, we can take the lad's case in sports economics, extremely interesting to listen to that, or is it golf, or is it football, or is it tennis, and you know, even as you come down, it's particularly Cork City that you've watched for years. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to harness the knowledge, and we wanted to harness the knowledge of articulate individuals and present that in a broadsheet form online. So we managed to get our minimum viable product up and an improved version 1 and version 2 on punditarena.com. So today we have about a little over 250 riders on site. We're on course for about 200,000 readers of the product this month. We're hoping to surpass 1 million readers of the product for the month of December for this year's closing, and working our way through a seed round and winding down that windy road. But I suppose the story behind even getting there over 9 months is probably an interesting one, and the problem solving. And even today, you've just come off a day of consistently problem solving. So there's the site. It's on mobile if any of you want to have a quick look through it too, and the app's coming out at the end of the month. So when we started out, we built this site, and we had Richard had a blog site. He had some contributors to it as well before, and we brought those over. And we thought, how can we get more contributors? And so for the first month of November, I think we had 397 users of the product for that month. So we're sitting there at the end of it, fucking hell, you know. And we put out a fair few amount of articles, put out about an average of about 5 articles a day. And sat there and thought, geez, this is rough, you know. And as we went on, thankfully we were able to solve the problem. So first problem, Richard's grammatically, I've never met anyone at the races, for example. We passed the sign the other day and he looked up and there was an apostrophe missing. He said to me, how does anyone do that? He said, stupid fucker in the printer. And I hadn't noticed it because I was dyslexic. So he's grammatically at the race, but Rich will come to me with the problems and they need a fix. So I said, how are we going to get contributors? And so this is my talk. I'll talk you through our story. Bits of it will be interesting to you, bits of it won't. And so we thought contributors, and we needed free content. We couldn't afford even to pay a tenner for an article going. We needed as much free as we could. So we thought about it. Anyone looking to get, say, into sports journalism now was facing a problem that, be it in the UK or Ireland, the Irish Times, the Examiner, and some of the broadsheets weren't open for business even taking on interns. So we went throughout the colleges, bombarded everyone that was head of any media course in Ireland to the UK, to the career services, and we said, you've got to send out this template email and basically say, here's a chance to do a 3-month internship which can be extended out in sports journalism. So gradually this got knocked around and we started to get in the flow of writers. And eventually we were putting out about 15 articles a day, and just to put you in this perspective there, the Irish Examiner probably puts out about that region of content a day in sport. So we were trying to hit those levels, and but still our traffic had only gone up to be, this is in about December, maybe late November, it'd only be about 4,000, maybe 5,000 users for the month, and now you have another problem.
Sorry, can I just ask you, when you say that, is that a unique hit? Or? That's
a unique hit, yeah. So you're talking about someone coming on, so if you come on through your mobile phone there, you're going to count as one unique user.
Okay.
For how we analyse that then is obviously if we analyse it in a day, or we bring it over a month, or we bring it over a year, you then contribute to it. So we looked at, that was a problem, and we looked at it was basically for us, it was actually a distribution problem. And what we'd taken on through the college writers was we'd taken on great guys that were really into sport and really articulate, but when you go back to their Twitter followers and you go back to their Facebook followers, they don't have much clout. So they're not actually able to distribute that article for you. So if you get down into Spar down below, we'll pick up the Irish Times, no worries, we'll pick it up anywhere, and that's our distribution points. So for us, our content writers was very good, the content's quality, we didn't have the distribution points. So then we looked into what's the quickest way for us to get distribution. So we managed to get a publisher's license for Google News, and managed to get on an aggregator called News Now. So this kind of solved our problems to an extent, and then one night we got very excited the following morning. Ian probably remembers we came in, we managed to put out an article of the top 15 players that didn't get picked for the Ireland Six Nations squad. They could have formed a B team as such and probably played the A team, and that cracked 40,000 unique users over 2 days. I remember me and Richard were thinking, fuck it, this is the problem solved. You know, and you always think there's a problem solved in the startup, there never is, because it's going to be a different problem following week. And I suppose that's the good fun in it. And so we thought this is brilliant, and so we had 40,000 odd for that month, and then the aggregators kicked in, and I guess then as we started to build the traffic, we gone ahead and built this site. We built this WordPress site, and we built our own server, and we've done it to keep the cost base down on ourselves. And this is just moving into January. I'll bring you all the way up to today, and the site started to collapse as the traffic would come on in real time. So if Richard fed out 1, 2, 3 articles in real time, might bring on 200-300 users, and basically the infrastructure, that server, the caching of it, and some of the technical aspects to it wouldn't allow for that amount of users. So you basically other users wouldn't be able to access the site and we'd have max out. So then you got to solve the problem of getting a better physical space and getting your site better set up so that you're not putting as many queries on the server. So we solved that, and we kind of pushed through into the new year, and we had 40,000 users for one of the months, and Eamon was saying this is great. You're really going to rack the traffic, and we thought and then the following month we only increased by 10,000. Shit, we've got another problem. And then when you look at the way we were using Google News, we weren't actually tagging the articles to a point where we could get ahead of, say, the Irish Examiner, we can get ahead of the New York Times. So instead of putting it up as the tag is Manchester United, if it was a Vidal article, it was a Manchester United, Vidal moved from Juventus, put in a longer tag so that, sure, we might only compete and get 15 or 20% of the obsolete traffic, but the amount of people searching for that in the world, either 650 Manchester United fans, is absolutely massive. So we started to go through that, and we got the traffic up, and we started to approach this to the revenue point. And the next problem you come to is everyone starts asking, when's the revenue going to come in? And then we went to some of the advertising sales houses in Ireland and the UK, and they said, we don't deal with sites unless you're at 100k uniques monthly. That's our threshold. If you're not at that, we don't really want to know you, to be honest. So we were still below that, and we still definitely had a fight to get to that. And we've got a fight to even get to the million barrier, and we've got a fight to get to the 10x barrier. But to get to that, I suppose we really had to nail down on the content, and we started creating content that had a chance of more virality. So for the other day, for example, Sugar Ray Leonard, the boxer, found an article on him versus Mayweather, hypothetically who would have won that fight. He shares it on Facebook, and all of a sudden we see Google Analytics load up this ton of traffic, and you're looking at the source, and it's Facebook forks at Sugar Ray Leonard. Sure enough, he shared it. So when we started really going into things, we started asking the writers to create stuff that really, really brought interest, not to just the common user, but to other people that were further and further afield. Let's be honest, far outside our reach. I'd say if I even tried to contact Sugar Ray Leonard, I'd still be here today trying. So we got through that. We were good enough and lucky enough. Some of the people we competed with in Ignite, and they're not competitors. They're very good friends to this day. Sarah Deneen, Unilink.com, Problem with Walter, and many others. We were lucky enough to take the Business of the Year award there. We then got on to a competition called Start Tel Aviv, which is an interesting one for us today, because obviously there's a serious situation going on in Gaza, and not from where I stand on it, but we won an award there for one of the best applicants. And of course the email came in last night, do you want to go? So Richard rang me, he said to me, my mother was just asking me, he said, you're not going to go. He said, and I said, my mother was saying that she's actually going to get your mother's number if we do go. So we ended up actually making a decision to go, and we're going to go. Off my point of view, publicly I do disagree with what's happening in Gaza, but I want to see what the normal Israeli is like, and it's an excellent opportunity in a separate city. And I suppose you're still problem solving every day till now, and for us it's our next step is how do we increase our writer base even more. And it's the point A, so how can you keep cutting down the writer base to bring our editorial down, and even, let's say, if you have a writer on site that responds on a lot of traffic for you, how can you edit his stuff first? So it's a mix of technical, personal, and obviously increasing that distribution point. And Google News, News Now, the aggregators, Facebook, Twitter, all of these are actually our distribution points, like the shops are for the Irish Times and the UK for the Guardian and so on. So it's been a lot of fun. I think the kind of point that you guys were good enough to set up your own site and get going, but for a lot of people that can be a daunting task. And there's definitely barriers there. If you just want to write about something, which is how I kind of came across the deal, I just wanted to write about United, and I wanted to write about some of the issues I saw there and some of the constant things we had under Ferguson that weren't quite right, ironically. And I had a domain in front of me and a hosting to set up, and that's what we looked to remove. So we looked in part of the Articulate Fan. Sorry, it's gone off the screen, and so that's where we are today. So that's kind of our story. I hope it's some interesting parts in you, and any questions you have, please ask. We do a lot of work with Cork City fans. We've had a lot of articles come through.
Do you have any female writers?
Do we have any female writers? Actually, one of them took a big shine at the Richard at a Leinster game, and she came onto the site. Geraldine is her name, and she does all the writing. I would say no. To be honest, we probably have about, I'd say, 7-8% of about 250. And if I was to be honest on the demographic, which we're happy about as well, it's one-sided. It's about 95% male.
Yep.
Yeah. From an advertising point of view, that's great, because if you want to put Lucozade in front of 18 to 30-year-olds, then if it's 55-45, then you're falling into water, because what I'm paying you for is actually missing nearly half of the time. So we're happy to be on that way. It's not that in the future I don't want certain sections to become more people. I definitely do, and it would open up, of course, another stream for it. But that's just the way in sport. Probably just.
I'm not taking any offence. It's the reality.
Edit every article.
So yeah, every article would go through our editorial team. So I suppose for us it was easy to get writers through the colleges for the opportunity, but what was actually ironically even easier, and this is something you wouldn't spot until you actually get into doing it, was that editorial experience now is literally so scarce on the ground that for someone to get editorial experience and be able to say, I've done 6 months with these guys, these are the articles I've edited, this is the traffic it's done, this is the real life experience it's been in, has been great. And we stumbled across also content syndication. So you have a lot of print providers now, circulation's dropping. You have a year on year, but their cost base is staying stagnant. So basically we kind of got approached, and they said, I would like to buy this article off you, because they need an echo locally, and we thought, okay, we'll charge you 40 quid. And they said, no, actually, they couldn't name the price. He said 100, so we said, yeah, it's great. We kind of stumbled across that one.
The examiner in so much trouble.
Yeah, and we've been careful with that, I suppose, because online we don't want to do any white labelling of content syndication, because we're worried that that really is self-harm. But offline, we're literally happy for anyone to print. You can fire away. We package it up like Reuters do now in XML packages, and you can take what you want.
So it's like fact checking and everything.
Sorry?
Fact checking and everything in there.
Yeah, it would be. Obviously, we do have to go off. Some of our established writers that have proved themselves over time. We wouldn't necessarily check every fact. But some of the new ones definitely coming in. Like, you can't just go on and get a login to the site. If you see in the top left there, there's become a writer section. So for us, you got to give us a bit of detail about you. You got to fill out your name, your email, and give us a sample article. So we are a media provider. We're not going to take someone on like me, probably is the sites that we're going to have to go through on a heavy editorial basis. We want to take someone on that's going to be really trim on editorial we can get out straight away.
But it's not like YouTube where you can just whack anything up. No.
It certainly is not. You won't even get a login to the site unless that sample article is approved. We won't give you one. At the moment, there's a site where we kind of come across a similar idea in the States, and they ran into the problem at the start that they let anyone on, just like YouTube. And the problem was it stayed within this state. The brand got damaged because they were putting up everything and anything, and that was a big problem. And it was one of the things when we done the research that we highlighted that we were going to stay clear of, and that we were going to effectively run a closed shop, but a very open one if you were good enough and willing to apply.
Have you spoken, Ross, to the guys at Storyful in Dublin?
No, it was funny enough. A guy that kind of helps me out with a few things. He's linked me up hopefully with Mark. But if you're able to do it, always looking for a second avenue.
Like, it's not obviously a competitor, but a lot of the stuff they're doing, there could be processes that they've put in place that might help you with just scaling what you're trying to do.
That'd be excellent. We're always trying to improve ourselves in every regard, and we know the process can be improved. Like as I said earlier, we're looking at some of the tech to make sure we actually get to edit the guys that have the most traffic. And I'm sure Mark, obviously being through a successful exit, will be valuable thoughts and experience.
Yeah.
I would have thought that BuzzFeed is more relevant. They just got 50 million from Andreessen Horowitz, just giving them an overall, there's just, maybe because it's August and there's not a lot going on, but their model is really, really different in terms of they don't do advertising, they certainly don't do, what do you call those things, the banners, sorry. But they do advertorials and stuff like that, But it's just very interesting just how much, they're worth more than like Washington Post and all this kind of stuff. Like, and Mark Andreessen in one of his Twitter storms, he talked about like, this is the new golden age of media, This is like the real contradiction of everything is that you know, at the time when we're looking at old businesses like the Examiner and the Business Post and this kind of thing being in trouble, but there's never been a better ability to get stuff in front of people. And his view is that there might be only 50,000 people that want to read something, but those 50,000 people will pay to read it, you know, and that there's a lot of work to be done. But I mean, certainly in terms of what you're doing, the whole BuzzFeed investments will make people perk up their eyes. Because I remember years ago, like in the first .com boom, when people were selling these kind of businesses, like there was just no business model behind it. So it's going to be, you know, I mean, John was saying about Storyful. Like Storyful, they're similar in terms of verification. I mean, that's what they do. They don't really create content; they verify it. You know, so there's a link there, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it's successful exit to News Corp as well. So.
Yeah, which is probably well. No, but yeah, do you know what I mean? That they found it's really interesting when Mark Little started that. Like, how people sort of went, "What are you doing?" Like, it's and then you know he had the last laugh.
He definitely did.
I think you're doing incredibly well. How many hits do you have a day now?
Cheers. Yesterday we had about 23,000 people on the site for the day.
It's fantastic. I think just a very simple thing. Where, like, the guy uploads the article, where do you get the graphics, the photos and so on? And they just
yeah, the images are basically, if you go onto one of the bigger sites and you say one of the common media houses, they'll probably have a retainer with Getty to use anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 images for a lot of cash. Whereas what we do is we use Wikimedia Commons, which is basically public rights to images. There's also a loophole that if you screenshot a video, you're entitled to use that as well. So and actually a lot of people have started to send us in photos. A guy sent us in his archives from Old Trafford. Especially for any United photo now, we have literally every player and every kind of shot. But yeah, that's what we do use going forward, and this gets better structure and money comes in and funding. Then we look to use Getty possibly, but definitely at the moment Wiki Commons, for anyone starting a site in this space, you might even know that yourselves with the economics of sport, is that it's just a good way to go forward. And I suppose when anyone's starting something like that, you look at every barrier you can possibly do to starting and you try and remove it.
And the website looks great. It's clean.
Is the quality the biggest, maintaining the quality and establishing the quality? It's probably the biggest challenge, but the biggest opportunity at the same time.
It is. I think if someone's not producing quality for us, I might be a bit tougher than Richard is on it, in that he sees maybe guys coming through early years or even later years, and he'll give them more chance. But even he's started to cut guys, and we have to, because otherwise it just becomes uneconomical for us to try and process or reword. In the early days, we used to reword crap, really. Like, the guy would send in an article and he'd have a good opinion, but it would be structured horribly and it'd be worded horribly, and we'd end up saying 45 an hour goes into rewording it. Whereas now it's coming in kind of the 80% stronghold that produces for us. It's just a couple of streamlines and a couple of factors.
And probably your content providers are probably learning, because they probably see the edited thing, so that's what's readable versus whatever they've uploaded first time, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. They're definitely learning as we go. I think we are learning as we go. When we started out, we had no style guide for them, we had no sample articles, we had no tutorial videos way around the site. We just put this up and we send screenshots. Now there's videos way around to get around the site. There's a style guide there that goes through it. There's sample articles that's broken down graphically how we'd like you to write. So we definitely help them a lot more now than what we did in the early days, and it's because the truth about it is, and it's not modesty or it's not. The truth was we didn't know that back then. We were 24, 25, and we just thought they'll obviously know. In fact, when you got into it, you couldn't expect someone to know, because they were obviously problems that we only got when we got into it. And we're always listening to what people are saying to us is wrong, and you got to put your hand up when you're not doing things right and change quickly.
So one last question for Ross.
Have you looked into other forms of media, like maybe podcasting? We see Aftenball had a lot of success there.
Yeah, we just we did put some. We got a Yeti mic and from down at CompuB, and we put some time into the podcast, and we've done actually a couple of demos of it, and they're sounding good. I think it's kind of fun. We're taking a more of a fun angle to it in the actual tone of it, and. Yeah, you see it coming on site, I think, much more next month, and you see a regular weekly one, which hopefully we're trying to turn into maybe a bi-weekly and eventually a daily one. Yeah, definitely podcasting is a big one. You can save and listen to them as you go.
So, thanks Ross.
Cheers, thanks.